San Francisco 49ers fall to 0-2 in the division, blowing another fourth quarter 10-point lead to do so. This one is luckily for them, this division sucks right now because the Rams lost and Seattle lost, but the San Francisco 49ers do not have a lot right going for them. And we're going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about it next. All right, welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second, and it's a post-game rant. The title of the show is apropos because rants usually happen when you're pissed, and the San Francisco 49ers just lost to the Arizona Cardinals. They have 0 wins currently in the NFC. They are 0-2 in the division, and then they still somehow have a chance, assuming Seattle's going to lose, to take first place in the division next week. As crazy as that sounds. But this is where we are at. David, thank you for joining me as always. How are you doing, man? How you doing?
I mean, I've had a fever for 5 straight days. I missed a whole week of work. I haven't been outside the house since last Saturday. Okay. So it's been the week from hell. It's been one of the worst weeks of my entire life. And I was hoping, I thought, hey, one of the worst, the most inefficient defenses the entire NFL on both sides of the ball. 49ers get right game. They're on the right path. This is going to lift me out. My fever's dissipated. I'm going back to work tomorrow. I got something to hang my hat on. I hang my hat over there on the ground. I'll put my hair hat back because my hair is kind of bad. But you know what? That's how this is the production value today. Okay. I don't have any notes in front of me today. This team is embarrassing right now. And I know we got some talking points that we're going to talk to, but the culture of this organization is exhausting to me as a fan. As somebody who has been a creator, a writer, a season ticket holder, I am really struggling to understand where the water carriers will find silver linings after a game like this. I know where the excuses are going to come from, and we'll talk about them. I'm going to debunk every single one of them. And right now, this team has got a short week to go into Seattle, and then you got Patrick Mahomes coming to town and the Dallas Cowboys. And then you got a bye week. So we're staring down sub 500 before the bye week. That's where we're at.
AB, correct me if I'm wrong, but when they have been here before, they've done it without as many injuries as they have had. And also, to be fair, they didn't lose to the bad teams that they're losing to right now. And also the other biggest thing is this. It's not just the losses. Okay. They're 0-3 in the NFC and they are 0-2 in the division. You don't understand what that does when you come to tiebreakers for making the playoffs or playoffs down the stretch.
The only games that matter are in December. Okay. When are you going to start understanding this? The games against the conference in September and October
don't mean anything.
Superfluous. They mean dick. That they don't mean anything. Like you don't. Hey, it's all good, right? We can come back, but it's. I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear all this. Like they've been here before. They haven't been. They've been here before with Jimmy Garoppolo. Okay.
Yeah,
they've been here.
They aren't supposed to be here with Brock Purdy and this talented unit. They're just not supposed to be here. That's the thing. And it's the teams they're losing to. It's the fact that they haven't won an NFC game yet. They haven't won a division game. They're 0-2. And oh, by the way, the 2 division games they lost, they had 10-point leads in the fourth quarter and they blew them both, man. This is not the same. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not. Look, we just talked about Seattle. Seattle's, I think, going to lose to the Giants. At least last I saw, they were. If that's the case, if the 49ers win next week, they're still first in the division by default. But I mean, do you think that they're going to beat the Rams the second time around when the Rams are healthier, or Arizona? Like, I don't know, man. I just
look, the Rams are probably going to go to 1-4 as well, as I'm watching this game against the Packers here. But we can say all this all we want. Like, winning the division, this team isn't winning anything if they're playing like the way that they are. And the idea that we've moved the goalposts to the teams in our division suck, so it's okay. The teams in our division,
you're right. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
The teams in our division suck, so hey, let's just do this. Let's make jokes about Grant Cohn. Let's hey, we're good. All right. Our culture is strong, right? We're the 49ers. Okay. We got each other's backs. The vibes are just, they're not bad. Everything's okay. But we're not. We're talking about the Rams and the Cardinals. Legit are two of the worst teams in the NFL, and it's not close. Those defenses, outside of Buda Baker on the Arizona Cardinals, and Buda's getting up there too, okay? And like, these were self-inflicted wounds all day long. The same thing that happened against the Rams, against way inferior opponents. And I do believe that. And that's the problem. They are inferior opponents. But at some point, if you're not going to win the games against the inferior opponent, you're just not a good team. And it doesn't mean that they can't be there and they can't make the playoffs. Obviously, if they're 3-3 next week in the division and in first place, they can make the playoffs. But this doesn't look like a team that's that serious. This doesn't look like a team that's actually that laser focused on putting their foot on the throat of teams that are not in their stratosphere. This looks like a team that's just content to say, let's get healthy, let's get CMC back. I mean, we're going to go through them. We can debunk all of these excuses because I've already seen them from some big blue checks within our fan base who all game was just zipped lips because we got to get our credentials. We got to make sure that we're like cozying up to Jed and cozying up to John. We can't ever have any opinions that like actually are legitimately like empirically observed. We just have to sit here and like toe the company line, even though you're not. I'm done with that. And this show is going to be interesting.
Listen, we don't have to. I'm not in bed with the 49ers. I don't get paid by the 49ers. I love the 49ers and I'm a fan. I'm not a journalist. I'm not anybody special, but I can certainly give you my mind and my 2 cents on everything that's happening. And I'm not going to get a call from the PR department saying, hey, you should probably tone it down a little bit or take that video down or no, none of that. None of that's going to happen here. So yeah, guess what? We get to speak our mind. I don't know where you put the loss, but a big factor, not only in this game, David, but throughout the season has been red zone touchdown percentage. Now, anybody that's been here the last couple of weeks knows this is not a Johnny come lately take that is here on Last Second Sports. This is the 3rd week in a row that I've brought this up. Okay. The 49ers were 50% coming into the game in red zone touchdown percentage after being 68% last year and ranking first. Today, they go 1 for 6, I believe was the number in red zone touchdown percentage. That is atrocious, man. And the offense, listen, the offense, a lot of people are praising the offense has been great. And one thing I said is I think the offense, by proxy of being around the defense that has been playing bad and the special teams that have been playing bad, has kind of gotten a pass because they look good compared to the other 2 units. But when you really break it down and you take away the defensive scores and all the times that the defense has given them basically field goals or touchdowns, whatever, they're not putting up a lot of points. Outside of week 1, the offense isn't scoring a lot of points. Now they're moving the ball great between the 20s, but they're not scoring a lot of points. Why do you think that is, David? Is that a CMC thing? Is that like, what's going on here, man?
Well, I think part of it is there's been some plays where Brock has missed reads that I don't always see right away. I think that is a part of that. I also think play calling creativity has been really limited. I think that we're inside the red zone and not just in the red zone here. I'm talking about inside the 10-yard line. Okay. Not just on the 19. Okay. But when you're inside the 10, First and goal situations, goal to go situations. When you are in goal to go situations, this team has got to be hitting touchdowns. This team has got to be at least 50%. It needs to be 2/3. I think it was like 68% last year. It should have been. I mean, no, that was red zone. So inside the 10, this team is too good. And can hurt you in too many ways to not be successful in that regard. And my problem is that I'm seeing a lot of plays that are abandoning the run. And then I have no problem abandoning the run actually inside the 10 if you're being creative. But there's no quick hits. There's no decoy usage. There's nothing creative. It's all 5-7 step drops, like ridiculous things that are allowing a space that's already clogged up pretty easily, getting even more so. It just keeps happening week after week after week. Now, I think there were a couple here where Brock probably saw a couple things late. I have to go back look at the all 22 on that to confirm. But I think there was one there with Jennings. I think there might have been one where there might have been a running back going free. But in reality, there were a lot of things when you looked at it that there just isn't a lot open in those situations, and you're taking way too long. But that's exactly the type of play calling that's happening further back behind downfield. And I think a lot of the reasons why the 49ers are 32nd in yak is that Brock Purdy is spending time with his legs. We talked about this last week, right? The double-edged sword of the plus of like, hey, you use your legs to evade pressure and extend the play with your legs. Or the negative, you extend the play too much, and then you're spinning around and got a sack or an interception or two, like we had today. And I feel like that same philosophy is happening inside the 10, and I just don't understand it. And I feel like Kyle has to be culpable for this. I'm sorry. Like CMC, people talked about, I think there's this Jeff Mueller. He's a PT. He was talking about, hey, CMC comes back. He's going to get all those goal line touches again inside the red zone that Mason isn't getting. And I'm like, why Mason isn't capable of that? It doesn't make any sense. And so I'm going to tell you right now, I tweeted out ad nauseum, probably lost a bunch of followers for it earlier in the game. I said, field goals inside the 10-yard line will kill you. A field goal inside the red zone, what have you. You know, if you got to kick a 40-yard field goal or 37-yard field goal, 30, it happens. Kicking 23-yard field goals should be criminal. Right? It shouldn't even be a thought. You should just be going for it. And look what happened today. This, make no mistake, there were a bunch of things that happened that we're going to talk about that were mistakes. The lack of red zone touchdowns early in the game matter. And just like you said, Jesse, these early opponents, yes, September games matter. First quarter plays matter. Second quarter plays matter. It's a whole holistic game, right? So this idea like, oh, you're going to come up clutch. No, you don't have to come up clutch when you're doing the right things earlier. And it's exhausting to me to have to feel like this was like Greek to people. And I'm sorry, I want to hear Kyle question about it. I want to stop seeing Kyle so dismissive and so just like, just self-righteous and indignant that, oh my God, the plebeians are asking me a question about how I run my offense. Yeah, we are. It's because the product is embarrassing. And you guys get Debo Samuel on his podcast talking about we're the best team in the NFL. You're the best team in your division. Like, yeah, this is insane.
It's rough, man. And yeah, I think, the red zone touchdowns comes down to multiple things. Like you said, play calling is one. I've certainly, in watching the all 22, called out some of the plays when we watch it together on Mondays. Also, no CMC isn't helping things. I mean, I got in a big argument, not a big argument, but a big debate, I should say, on the 4-man front before the season started with Coach and Grant about CMC versus Kittle and who was more important to the offense. And of course, they came out and looked great week one, and everybody's like, see, you don't need CMC and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, here we go, week after week after week after week, and they're not scoring in the red zone. I do think that's a factor in it. Now, it can't be an excuse. You should still win these games, but I definitely think it's a factor in it. And, the play calling is interesting because you're throwing the ball on some of these early downs. And then when it's obvious passing downs, obviously the defense is going to be ready for it. So everything seems out of whack right now in the red zone. They can't get things together. They fumbled in the red zone today. I don't know. It just hasn't looked good at all in the red zone. They've been discombobulated to put it best, I guess.
And the fumble in the red zone, I mean, I could see people say, hey, we had CMC. CMC fumbled the red zone against the Vikings last year. He fumbled near the red zone against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. He actually did it multiple times last year. It happens, right? But yeah, that can't happen. Those plays can't happen. But also, what makes it even worse in those situations is that you knew that you couldn't kick a field goal because you have no kicker. So you're in these situations where, I'm sorry, like in those moments, it's just got to be that you can't have mistakes of that magnitude. And Brock Purdy himself also, these weren't the red zone elements here, but I know we're going to talk about this, but the mistakes that Brock Purdy made today, missing a lot of throws, a big concern I've had is he's taking way too much time to process certain things. He's waiting way too long to pull the trigger. And 2 of his turnovers today were really, both of them were on him. There was pressure, but he waited too long. And a guy hit him when he threw. Yeah, that happens. That happens when you're that's on the quarterback. It's frustrating.
Yeah, he's certainly seems to be falling in love with big plays right now. And as a result, I think there's been some things underneath that he's just passed up. And it's great when it works. Everybody celebrates when it's a big play in the first quarter when it doesn't matter. And when it does matter and it turns into an interception, nobody wants to talk about it. All right, let's go through these super chats and then we'll actually talk a little bit about Brock. Ethan says, Kyle has got to go, man. Okay, thank you for the super chat. Matt says, 49ers need to be sellers at the trade deadline. This team is trash. The good news is there's still time to figure out what they need to be at the trade deadline. But if the trade deadline was this week, I would agree, Matt. Thank you for the donation. Dave Barclay says, fire Kyle Levy. He lies about injuries equals Lyle.
Holy man. That's
David.
Lyle. I might start calling, what? There's our high school football field is called Lyle Anderson Field, my old neighbor when I first moved here. Legendary coach, won 3 straight championships, 97, 98, 99. I'm going to, from here on out, until the 49ers get a win, call Kyle Lyle Shanahan on this show. And
back-to-back wins. Back-to-back wins.
Back-to-back with the consecutive wins. So when I tweet, I will be tweeting. I will call him Lyle Shanahan. If somebody asked me, so what are you talking about his name? I'm not gonna address it. I love it. Lyle Shanahan.
Brother Bob says, Dave Barclay texting me when we're up 10, punk. Another blown 10-point lead. What's up, Brother Bob? Thank you for the super chat. So Samir has nothing to say, but a bunch of F's, man. A bunch of F's. Thank you, Samir. I appreciate you. Matt says, sorry, kids, but this team is effing trash. Thank you, Matt, for the super chat. Dave Barclay says, now it's my fault. Lyle with a 10-point leads, man. Thank you. Brother Bob says, and if we need a kicker again, we suck again.
Hey, we'll get a better draft pick. We can get him in the second round this year. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Jason says, we obviously don't have the talent to compete Pro Bowls and all pros at quarterback, halfback, fullback, wide receiver, tight end, left tackle, defensive end, linebacker, cornerback, and safety. We're lucky to win 5 with this roster. I hint a little sarcasm there.
Culture, baby.
Foxter. Yeah, culture. Foxter says, devastating loss today, gents. Red zone, near 0 yak. What's the key stat? There was some good yak today. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you. I mean, there was some good yak today, actually. Ayuk, Kittle had some good. Yep. Mason, I think today was a much better yak day. Devastating loss today, gents. Red zone, near yak. Near 0 yak. What's the key stat for you guys to explain the terrible season so far? I think we just talked about it. And obviously you asked this question before we did talk about it, but it's the red zone touchdown percentage. I think that is the most telling stat that the 49ers have at this current point. And it's been all season. Deshaun says 10-point curse happens again. We're 0-5. I love how Fox framed the stat. Kyle Shanahan is 38-0 when entering the fourth quarter with a 10-point lead in the regular season. But they didn't say when you have a 10-point lead at some point in the fourth quarter that they don't seem to win. But, that was an interesting way to frame it. Matt says, we haven't started our tough stretch in the schedule yet. Well, David, you tell me if you agree. I said this 3-game stretch was going to tell us what the 49ers were this season. Cardinals, the Seahawks, 2 games in division, and then the Kansas City Chiefs. I felt like by the end of that 3-game stretch, we would know who the 49ers are. Not a great start. Now, if 49ers can somehow muster up and win the final 2 of this 3-game stretch, we'll feel much better. but not a great way to start the 3-game stretch. You agree that this 3-game stretch will kind of tell us where the 49ers are at when it's all said and done?
Yeah. I mean, look, this is a short week going to Seattle, and I don't care that Seattle lost and the Rams just did lose. So that's the only thing, I guess. This is what's sad. We're going to talk about this 3-game stretch. This is the 49ers in a nutshell right now, that our fan base, including myself, has to be like, oh, we could be winning the division at 3-3 this Thursday. Like, think about that.
We could be. And I forgot, though, Arizona's 2-0 in the division. So technically, if they win next week, they would still be in first place in the division.
After the Niners, after
the Thursday.
Yeah. So
you're right.
But I mean, that's where we're at. So yes, this 3-game stretch. And by the way, like the morale of this team isn't good. They could talk about how confident they are, but it shows on the field. And I always talk about my buddy Al, who's taught physics here for 30 years. He always, one of the lines, I think I brought this up before, I always put up on the first day of school. I said, there's nothing worse than mediocrity that struts. And right now, that is exactly what this 49ers team is. And it's one of my favorite lines. My students are like, oh, that's a great line. I said, yeah, it is. I said, you want to be mediocre, do it quietly. But the Niners, they beat their chest about it. Right? The Niners will come out here and say, we can lose to the Rams. We can lose to the Cardinals. We're still the best team. We're still going to yuck it up. We're still, this is kind of who they are. Right. And so, in order for me to see them, I don't know. And until that culture changes, to me, I don't think this team's going anywhere. I think there's too many veteran leaders that are too comfortable in their positions of authority in the locker room, that are very comfortable in where they're at in life, and bless them. Right. Like I don't would begrudge anybody their money. I'm pro player. I'm pro labor. But I don't think this team is serious. You get the Seattle Seahawks. I don't care that they lost the Giants. They're going to be amped up to play you on short, and it's not going to be an easy game. You got the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't care who they lose. You think Patrick Mahomes is worried about this 49ers defense? I saw a lot of y'all, not you guys, but I saw a lot of people on Twitter trotting out DVOA for defense all of a sudden when they found it. Like, oh, our defense might not actually be that good. Watch the games. This defense is not it.
The thing is, it was good. It looked so good in the first half. I was like, because coming into this game, this was a test for the offense, or excuse me, for the defense and not the offense.
You guys got to stop talking.
We heard you.
You did?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. But coming into this game on paper, I felt like this defense was going to be tested and not the offense. And in the first half, it kind of felt a little opposite, right? Where it was like, okay, the offense was doing okay, but really the defense had stepped up. It was like, man, they're really like they were up for this test. In the second half, it all fell apart. They couldn't stop the run. James Conner looked like a beast. And then the offense couldn't move the ball anymore. It's like, man, everything all of it fell apart for the whole team. And then to boot, you don't have your kicker. It's like, well, you basically have to score touchdowns or dang near touchdowns if you want to score. The whole thing was an absolute mess in the second half. Absolute mess.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, yeah. Cryptic says D was complete trash. Was Shanahan game plan just to be in shotgun? He never moved away from it. Why was Mason even suited up? Too many of these losses. Yeah, he does these weird things, man, where he came out. The Arizona Cardinals, I talked all week about how the Arizona Cardinals give up 146 rushing yards per game. And what does Kyle do, man? He just comes out slinging it around the yard. Like, oh, okay. Oh, you can't stop the run? Well, we'll show you. We're just going to pass a bunch from shotgun. He doesn't move the launch point for Purdy. He doesn't. It's just like everything is so vanilla, man. And he just expects that the team is uber talented and is just going to overcome it. It's like, man, you got to scheme your butt off sometimes. You just got to be ready to scheme your butt off. What happened to that with Kyle? What happened to Kyle being so smart and creative and having this great offense? Like, I haven't seen it consistently for a while. It feels like. Where's
the misdirection? Where's what made Debo? How Debo is so dangerous as a runner. Well, I don't see it anymore. I'm with you. I don't understand. And I really feel that Kyle has become so dependent in his mind about having CMC there. I really feel like that is like, he is so, Kyle is slow to trust. Kyle is a control freak. Kyle is, I mean, and isn't it telling that at the end of the game, that's when like, oh, now we're going to throw it to Jordan Mason. You know, he's not getting targets. I understand he's nowhere near CMC's level as a pass catcher, a route runner. You could put it anywhere. He could. I mean, CMC can line up as an X receiver, right? That's not Jordan Mason, but that doesn't. Most of the time, that's not what CMC's doing either, right? So like that he's not getting his targets for lining up out wide. Like this is just, and so I honestly think Kyle deserves criticism. Kyle deserves the heat. I mean, the buck has to stop with him. And his players have to execute, but he's got to put those guys in positions to succeed. And he's right now, I feel like, not doing that.
Thank you, Cryptic. I appreciate that, by the way. Thank you for the super chat. Matt says, hey, Juice, you know why Grant was staring at you? Okay. Because he didn't know Ish could stack so high. All right. Thanks, Matt. Luke says, off topic from this team blowing yet another fourth quarter lead. As a Buckeye and Niners fan, thoughts on the OSU Oregon matchup next Saturday, Jesse? I got to be real with you, Luke. I really haven't put a lot of thought into it. Oregon looks much better. I am looking forward to that game, but all morning, you know, David talks about how the 49ers game was supposed to be his great escape because he's been super sick all week. It started last Sunday, by the way. If you were tuning in, you saw that he was super sick. It's lingered all week. But for me, we've got a second hurricane headed right at us on Wednesday. And so all morning, literally up until the game was like I went to church in the morning, then hurricane prep all the way until the game. In fact, the first half of the first quarter, I was watching it on my iPad as I was putting my generator back together. Had to fix the carburetor on it. So it's like, this was supposed to be an escape, man. And it didn't turn into that. And then we've got this great matchup on Saturday and I've put zero thought into it. Let me get through Wednesday first, and then we'll see where we're at, man. That's all I'm worried about right now is Wednesday. Matt says, I love Mason, but he fumbled and missed a block on that interception. Yeah, he's not perfect by any means. Nobody is. But I'm not blaming him for this game. MD 2020, that's a great name. Seahawks just lost, blocked field goal. We saw it. Thank you for the update, MD. Thank you for the super chat. Matt says BA is the only skilled player getting separation. We'll talk about it actually, Matt. And in fact, you know, the 49ers have had 3 losses this year. The first loss was put a lot on the special teams, right? The second loss was Brandon Ayuk couldn't separate. How can Brock Purdy even trust throwing him the ball? And then today, I mean, I don't know what you're going to do with the loss. Red zone touchdowns is kind of where I'm putting it. But ultimately, you can go back to Kyle. You can go back to the offense. Whatever you want to do with it. But I do want to talk about Brock Purdy, and not in the sense that I'm certainly not throwing all the blame for what's going on him. I think he's had a bit of an up and down season, but a lot of people aren't talking about it. And whether they won or lost this game, David, do you realize that outside of the Rams game, now I know the Rams game happened. You can't just remove it from his stats and all that, but let's just look at what his season has looked like sans the one game. 4 games, all right? They're 2-2 in those 4 games. He has 4 touchdowns and 5 turnovers in those 4 games. And in the last 2 games against an awful pass defense in the Patriots and a lower mid pass defense in the Cardinals,
they're not good.
In both games has completed 55% of his passes.
Yep.
Brock's not playing great football right now. He's not. Now, I know a lot of people like hung the Rams game. He was very good. There's no. I talked about it. Everybody talked about it. But outside of the Rams game, he's really not playing his best football right now. And again, the offense as a whole, the defense hasn't been great. Special teams, Kyle's coaching, none of it's been good. So I'm not blaming Purdy for this start, but we are analyzing Purdy as a potential franchise quarterback. And everybody's been acting as if everything's been hunky-dory with him, and it really hasn't been outside of one game this year. What are your thoughts on Brock Purdy?
But let's just say we weren't even analyzing whether he was a franchise quarterback. Let's say we had a consensus that he was. Let's say that we were like, he is absolutely worth the money. It is still okay to look at games. You can do this with Mahomes. You can do this with Joe Burrow. You can do this with Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and CJ Stroud and on down the line. You can do these things with players. There's nobody that should be immune or insulated from basic objective observations of how you're playing. And I voiced this concern last week. And I did kind of kick back on, I do think that sometimes, hey, the time to throw isn't always a bad thing if you are pushing the ball downfield. And that is something that he's doing. Time to throw would be pretty bad if you're just checking it down and like hitting your dump offs, right? And I do think a lot of that is, and you alluded to this before, Jesse, is that the time to throw probably has gone up a lot because I think he is trying to play a lot of hero ball. He's getting greedy. And we saw him get greedy last week against the Patriots with the turnover in the end zone. But then today, yeah, I'm today, everything looks slow. Everything looked a little lethargic outside of his ability to evade pressure. But then even then, there were some times where it just felt like it was the run around with like a chicken with your head cut off. And very few times was it, hey, we're scrambling for positive yardage. I'm starting to become concerned with the turnovers. Somehow, I was at the Vikings game. What did not get discussed because they called it a fumble, even though it was a pass forward. So fumbles don't matter for quarterbacks. Just want to let you know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like nobody cares. It's like if you call it a fumble, all the people that look at INTs, but throwing that ball forward, the ball kind of ducked, it never hit the ground, it was picked up, they called it a fumble. It should have been billed as an interception. Nobody talked about that. Nobody talked about the play last week in New England that could have kept it tight. Nobody talked today. The throw where there's a defender right in front of his face. And a huge faux pas. Very well could have cost him the game. But I'm not even putting it on that one play. The turnovers are a problem. And then part of me is the red zone efficiency is I have absolutely been going at Kyle, but at some point you have to start thinking about like, hey, if Kyle is giving you this many times to throw the ball in the red zone and we're not getting it in punching into the end zone, is it all in the separation? I don't know. I just too many missed throws today. Brandon Ayuk had one of these. And by the way, Brandon Ayuk, guess how many on 12 targets, 8 receptions? Guess how many yards he averaged per catch?
I don't even know.
Hit his average last year, over 18. George Kittle on 8 catches averaged 8. Okay. Now that's not George Kittle slander, but that just shows difference, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Ayuk again, he had a couple other misses on Ayuk where he was wide open earlier in the game and they're 3 and out. Again, that mattered. And then I think later in the game, I went in the second quarter where he kind of hit him high and hit his fingertips, but everybody thinks that's a drop because it hits your hands, even though it's just your finger down. These are things that you have to see tidied up. When you have that much time, you have to be able to deliver. And people like the box score scout. They like to look at QBR. They look at QB ratings. And instead of just actually watching the games, and there are even a lot of Brock Purdy stands. And I really do love Brock. And I like Brock a lot. But I also am not a shill. And I will critique. And there were some Brock Purdy stands dyed in the wool, never, ever won. I saw some people today say, no, that was a bad game for Brock. And before the final interception. And he's got to be better. He's got to be better. And even that interception where it hits his arm, that just can't happen. Like, you have to put your team in a position to succeed. You cannot be in that situation. It wasn't with like 20 seconds left in the game. There was still 1:20 left. You have to be able to make sure that does not end that way. So yeah, I'm a little bit concerned about that. I'm not pulling my hair out. I do think Brock has the ability to transcend that, but I do think that Brock needs to take his lumps as well, or as like accountability, which I think he will. But
he always does. That's what you love about him. He always does. I
just don't think he's playing his best football like people are talking about. I actually think Brock Purdy played some of his best football his first year, right? Brock Purdy, like this idea that like there's just this people decide, like there's a hive mind, like, oh, this is Brock Purdy's best football. Well, it's not true. Like, you get a couple isolated plays and like, oh, that's a great throw. Oh, that's a great catch. That's a great highlight play. That's fine. And that doesn't mean that Brock's playing like trash. But I don't think Brock actually is playing quite as well as people think he is. And that's why they're losing. That's another reason, not the reason. I really don't believe that. But I do believe it's a big reason why the 49ers are in some of these tight situations. And of course, Brock's put them in situations so that they can win games. I get that. But boy, there were a couple times where I said, hey, if it's going to be now, Brock's got to be that MVP candidate, go out and show it. Didn't deliver.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, people get mad when you even talk about it. It seems like it's taboo to even talk about, but
bring it.
It is what it is. Like the whole thing with Brock is that, and I brought it up last week and they won. So again, it wasn't a big deal, but he hasn't had a clean game where he's had at least 2 touchdowns, running, passing, whatever, at least 2 touchdowns in a game and clean from turnovers since the Washington Commanders game last year.
Yep.
So they've now gone 3 playoff games and 5 games in the regular season. 8, that's a half a season essentially without having a clean game in turnovers and at least accounting for 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's a big sample size at this point. And again, we now have 4 straight games with the turnover. We have 7 total TDs, 6 total turnovers on the season.
Yep. And
sans the Rams game, we have 4 touchdowns to 5 turnovers.
So what's the total line for 5 games?
So for the 5 games this year, I think he has 7 touchdowns and 6 total turnovers.
How is that good?
It's not. It's not good.
How is that?
And if you, like I said, and if you pull the Rams game, which it was a 3-1 ratio, great. That was a good game. That's the one. But outside of that, you've got 4 touchdowns to 5 turnovers in the other 4 games,
and no touchdown runs.
It's not great. No touchdown runs.
So 7 to 6 through 5 and a 2-3 team.
Yep.
I'm look, and I'm not that's box score.
And it's not. Listen, and I totally agree with that. Obviously, we watch the film, whatever else, and we'll break it down. It's tomorrow night, film night, whatever. We'll see what actually happened. What I feel like is happening without watching the film, we'll see. And I felt like it happened last week where he fell in love with the deep ball. He ended up throwing the pick. Now, luckily, unlike the Cardinals, that offense from the Patriots had no juice. So even though you were up and you gave the Patriots a chance to stay in that game with that interception, they couldn't capitalize the way the Cardinals did today. But what I feel like is he's falling in love with these big play down the field shots. And I feel like even on that last play, and we'll see again, he's holding the ball, waiting for that deep route to come open. And he's got Kittle right there for a check down that, would have resulted in gaining yardage right in front of him. And I feel like Brock last year would have just made that throw and been content with it. But this year, I don't know if it's because CMC's not there. Some of the guys have been in and out of the lineup. He just feels like he has to carry more of the burden, but he doesn't have to. Just play within yourself, man. What you are has been good enough to this point. What you are has gotten a lot of people to talk about you in this elite context. What you are has put you in a conversation to make $60 million.
Yep.
Don't go out and play outside of that. What he's doing now is Iowa State, Brock. This is what showed up on film all the time at Iowa State. Running around like crazy, making a boneheaded throw for no reason, taking a 10 yards loss on a sack, was all over his film at Iowa State.
Yep.
Now, I had him as a 3rd round prospect, which was higher than most. But the reason I didn't have him as a 1st round had nothing to do with his arm strength, had nothing to do with his size. It all had to do with his decision making and it being an issue in college. And right now, so far early in this season, you're seeing a lot of that decision making creep right back into his game for whatever reason.
Yep.
He's got to turn it around. He has to.
I was one of the few people that, and you, like I said, I feel like I got to preface this every time. I feel like, I got to go show my Iowa State card. I got to go show my Purdy jersey.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we say. People have an opinion one way or another. Just speak your opinion, man.
Yeah, I will. And that's the thing. I just want to look right in the camera and say, honestly, guys, life's too short. We're not sitting here trying to I take no joy. I'm a lifelong 49ers fan. I actually do believe in Brock. And
you're an Iowa State fan.
Yeah, but I was one of the few people at the Rams game that actually felt like in that game, the decision not to throw it to Ayuk was the biggest play of the game. And I don't understand why other people didn't see it that way. And I feel like when you are the guy, you have to make those plays. And so when I look back at these today, there were mistakes that Brock made that I would put on Brock. I think there's some other things that I would not just, I know we're going to talk about it. But yeah, I think Brock knows. Brock's got to play better. And I'm going to tell you right now, Mike McDonald is going to be amped on Thursday. That team is going to be amped. That team is going to be pissed that they lost in the fashion that they did. Malik Neighbors wasn't even playing. And I'm not saying the Seahawks are some boogeyman, but like
they're not.
This isn't even a trap game. When you're 2-3, there is no such thing as a trap game. Like
no,
you know what I mean?
No, this is
like,
just you've got to win.
No.
Thinking that the 49ers at this point in the season are a lock to beat anybody is crazy talk. They're not a lock to beat anybody right now.
This team could lose to any team in the NFL. This team could lose to any team in the NFL. I think they could beat any team in the NFL. But that's what this team is, though. They're not a team that used to be. That there was times even last year, like, no, there's no way in hell the Niners losing to that team. Right now, I just don't know. I actually felt very confident going into this game. And then when it got to 23-13 going into the fourth quarter and the kicker's out and things like that, I'm like, you know what? I got a bad feeling about this. I just got a bad feeling. And I know there's other things we need to talk about. But I need to see, like, I also think that confidence is easy to talk about in front of a microphone, but I'm a big believer that quarterback's confidence is the most important thing at any position, just like a pitcher in baseball. And I'm a firm believer that with Colin Kaepernick, I feel like confidence was actually one of the downfalls of where he started to decline and getting in his head too much. And that's the last thing I want to see out of Brock, who's supposed to be pretty unflappable. Is he going to be able to take losses like this, recover, chip on his shoulder, and come out, and then not necessarily have to? I don't want him to be afraid to make the big plays downfield, but I also don't want him to be. Tom Brady kind of laughed about it and was kind of nice about it, but like the whole thing, he was 11 seconds. Think about this: 11 seconds where he scrambled around, pirouette. It's really impressive, and he got sacked.
And then he took a sack. Yeah,
it's like
how many times could you have thrown the ball away and just like eaten it, throwing it into dirt?
And one of those plays was without the kicker. I can't remember. It was the third quarter. Okay, they've got a first in. What are they?
I think that play took them out of any chance of kicking a field goal without their kicker. Yeah,
it was because I think it was first and 10, and they had some dumb play, and then Juwan Jennings had a false start, so it made it 2nd and 15. And then the very next play, he takes another set. That wasn't even the 11-second sack, right? That I think the 11-second sack was like in the second quarter. So like this was just another play, and then it was 3rd and forever. And then without a kicker, they were screwed on 4th down. They had to go for it on 4th 23. Or 4th and whatever, and Kittle dropped
23.
Kittle didn't drop it. It was just an incomplete pass, and that has to stop. That style of play has to stop. And I also think that Kyle needs to intervene a little bit and start bringing back, this idea of the importance of we need to hit our outlets. We need to have something designed our offense. It's not all downfield. I know it's not for vert, but it's like it's becoming like, hey, I like the big play, but I like winning. I don't mind yak. Yak isn't a 4-letter word to me, right? Like and I think that one of those things that the 49ers need to really start thinking about before this season really gets out of hand, because it can get out of hand really quickly. And if they lose to Seattle on Thursday, and you go to 2-4. And then let's say you lose to Kansas City, you go 2-5. I don't give a shit what happens against Dallas. You're going into that bye week 3-5. You're done. He's like, I'll make the playoffs somehow. I don't care. You're done.
I don't know if you went into that at 3-5, you would make the playoffs, because the difference is like the Rams are going into their bye week at 1-4.
Yep.
But they're going to come out of that bye week with a lot of good players coming back. And so at least you can look at them and say, hey, they've been playing some tough football here. They've lost, but outside of the Cardinals game, like they've been at least battling and have something to show for it without a lot of talent on the team. Now you're getting an influx of talent. The 49ers problem is not a talent problem. That is not the reason that they're not winning. It has zero to do with talent. And has everything to do with all the other things that you want to discuss. Talent is not the issue. So them getting an influx of talent back, you can see how maybe a team like the Rams can turn it around. If the 49ers go 1-3-5, they're not getting an influx of talent back. That is not why they're losing these games. So it's hard to imagine why they would turn it around. And oh, by the way, Minnesota won again today. They now have a 3.5 game lead on the 49ers for this proverbial number 1 seed. We're 5 games into the season. So the 49ers have to have 4 less losses the rest of the way than Minnesota with 13 games left. I don't see that happening.
Jesse, there are 8 teams in the NFC that have more wins than the 49ers, and there's a bunch of teams that have the same amount, right? So there's already 8 teams now. Again, the season doesn't end today. I get that.
No, of course not.
You have to remember, none of these teams are slouches. Let's go. I'm just going to basically Seattle, 3-2, Tampa Bay, Atlanta, Chicago. You're like, oh, who cares about Chicago? Chicago's defense is better than ours. Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota, every team in the NFC North, and then the Washington Commanders. So there's 8 teams with 3 or more. There's a bunch of other with 2: Dallas, Philly, Giants, right? New Orleans. Arizona. I don't. There's some clunkers there in the 2-win category, but a lot of those teams that have 3 or more, these teams aren't just going to go away. These teams aren't there, and the Niners have to play the Packers. They got to play the Lions. They got to play the Bears still. They got to play the Cowboys, right? They got to play the Tampa. They got to, and they got to play in the division. And by the way, they haven't won the division yet. And if they lose,
they're 0-3 in the NFC. All these tiebreakers are going against them in the long run of the season, man. Like this is a big. These losses are gonna matter at some point. They're going to.
If they lose to Seattle, you're 0-4 in the conference, and you are 0-3 in division. And I'm sorry, you only play 6 divisional games. You are on the outside looking in with that division.
Yeah.
So this team, this is the biggest must win that I can remember for the 49ers in quite a while. And I feel like if they don't, the wheels are going to come off completely.
Yeah, if they don't win this week, it's a real long shot. You got a lot of season left, but that runway is starting to run very, very short. Very short. So Shady Luke says, didn't watch what happened. Didn't watch today what happened to Moody. High ankle sprain, it looks like, on a kickoff. He went to make a tackle and got his leg wrapped underneath him. It was brutal, man. I'm glad he didn't break it.
The only reason he had to do that is because our special teams couldn't stack 2 plays in a row consecutively because our kickoff coverage team.
You're right. That was after the
it's disastrous.
Oh
Demo just gone down. Jordan Elliott got the block. And again, people say, like, guys, by the way, guys get their hands in the air all the time. You guys, a lot of times that's on the kicker. It's it was
a low kick. That's why he got released. That's why he was released, because of low kicks. Yeah.
Jordan Elliott didn't have like a 40-inch vertical. Okay. Like it was just like you got his arm up, it hit his hand, and Demo was drawing in the spot and made the play. Right. That was what it's a fluke
Demo's
play.
Freaking Demo. That's why.
But it is, but it's a fluke play. These don't happen very often. So by the way, that's another thing the Niners have to realize is that they had to rely on that. A fluke interception by Nick Bosa. His last interception, his rookie year against Kyle Allen and the Carolina Panthers. Okay. So these are not fit plays that the 49ers are. They're high reliability plays. So depending on that to close the gap makes this loss even worse. And so it also makes the loss of Jake Moody even worse.
We got to talk about that. Eric says, enjoy this season, boys. It will only get worse once Purdy gets paid. These are the good times.
Oh my
God, dude. E-Man Report says, or I-Man Report says, is it time to make Clay Kubiak the OC and force Kyle to give up play calling? Man, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. I think the moment that you take away play calling from Kyle, you can basically just say he's on his way out. Cryptic says, just frustrated right now and haven't felt or like this in a while. Don't recognize this team. I know we were better team than LA and Arizona. It slipped away. Again, this is where we get caught up, Cryptic. And I feel the same way, but we really have to take a step back and look at it and say, better team or more talented team? Just because you have more talented players does not make you a better team. The Super Bowl proved that. The 49ers were clearly the more talented team in that game. They were not the better team. Right now, the 49ers haven't proven that they are the better team. They're the more talented team. But that doesn't necessarily make them better. I appreciate you, Cryptic. I know it's tough. Matt said safeties can't tackle. A lot of, they were one of the better tackling teams up at least through 4 weeks. I don't know after last week. And then this week, it just seemed like it all fell apart. I appreciate it, Matt. Kyle says, if Kyle needs CMC this bad, He's not a good coach. No, I agree with that. When I say that the offensive red zone woes are a product of not CMC not being there, that is not an excuse for Kyle or anybody. It's just a reality of like how much he means to this team. But you are right. If with these weapons, they can't be even to 50% 5 games into the season and red zone touchdown percentage, that is an issue. That is an issue. Ryan says, when did the defense forget how to tackle? I think it happened this week, Ryan. We just talked about it. Thank you for the super chat. Samir says, by week 5, CMC had 24 targets and 168 yards. Mason, as of today, had 8 targets for 66 yards. That's a great stat. Thank you. And it makes a difference. T Breezy says, give me Cliff Kingsbury as head coach now. No. He's a great offensive play caller, T Breezy. I don't think he's a good head coach, but thank you for the super chat. Iman says, Kyle may be phoning it in. I hope not. Again, I appreciate the super chat. All right, there's a bunch of these, and there are some things that I do want to talk about and how we move forward. One of them is special teams and Moody. There's not a lot of good kickers just laying around in the NFL at this point in the season, David. And I seem to remember, was it a Thursday night game? Do you remember the overtime game in Seattle? Jimmy Garoppolo, Dre Greenlaw picked off Russell Wilson, and it looked like they were going to win the game. And they ended up losing because they had a backup kicker in. Gold was hurt, and
it wasn't. It was actually, I thought it was in. It was at Levi's. Wasn't it?
Oh, maybe it was. Was it a Thursday game though?
It was a night. Yeah, I want to say it was a Thursday game. It was Chase McLaughlin.
Yeah. Either way,
I was kicking for the Bucks, or I don't know.
Yeah, somebody. He's kicking the hell out of the ball. But either way, this is very reminiscent. Same team. I think same night of the week in a big showdown that is going to be important and have season implications. And now Jake Moody's likely I don't think he's going to play. If he has a high ankle sprain, and it sounds like that's what he has, he's not playing in 4 days. So now they got to go find a kicker. It's going to be tough to rely on a guy. This is the type of stuff that can derail teams. And this team already feels like it's derailed a little bit. How big is this loss of Moody? I know we joke about Moody and we have our opinions, but Moody versus no kicker is a big difference. It just is.
And Moody, and you can hear me okay?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, good. I switched my mic up. I think Moody's a good kicker. My whole thing, I don't even want to get into it, is like the whole idea about draft value placement, and people don't have the patience or the bandwidth to understand that argument sometimes, but that's fine. I think missing Moody's obviously matters. I also think it's going to force Kyle to, they're going to have to bring a kicker in. I don't know who it is. They're going to have to figure it out but I also think no matter who they bring in, it's going to force Kyle to say, I'm not kicking probably 45 plus yard field goals. I'm going to kick extra points and that's it. All right. And everything within that range, right? The landing zone. Okay. I think that it's going to force Kyle's hand to say, we're going to be more aggressive and we have to be more touchdown dependent. Now, doesn't mean it's going to work, but even today, Moody was fine. Moody was there when they ended up going 1 for 6, but Moody kicked, I want to say Moody kicked 3 of the field goals, right? Before, or at least 2 that they were inside. I mean, I know he kicked one of them that was inside the 10. I know he kicked the first one, right? So this is the idea that we had a kicker and this offense still wasn't delivered in the red zone. But yeah, it's a big deal when you can't kick a 50-yard field goal. Those are nice to have when your offense stalls and to be able to get points. It absolutely hamstrings you. It absolutely makes you have to and so you're going to see, I think, a lot of 4-down territory. I think you're going to also, unfortunately, see the 49ers punt in situations where they really don't want to. Mm-hmm. And look, the bottom line is this: there's too much firepower on this offense to have that be the one that really sinks it for you. You got to have a kicker in the NFL. I get it. But that's not going to be something that I think is the big derailer for this team. And if it is, this team is, it's not, they're not serious.
Yeah, this is a big deal. And I see a lot of people throwing their suggestions in. Blankenship, maybe that's a possibility. Robbie hasn't kicked in 2 years. Mason Crosby, I think, kicked last year for the Giants when their kicker was out, but he was awful, if I remember. Fantastic with the Packers, but listen, at some point he's just too old and probably isn't the answer. So there's just not a lot of good guys out there now. Baby Blankenship is out there and he can come in and do fine, but geez, man, this is not ideal, especially on a short week, trying to work out kickers and figure this out. And by the way, you're not at home. Luckily, it's not a big travel, but it is still a travel. This is going to be rough. Now, a couple other things that came out of this game, we'll go a couple other things, was D Winters. What'd you think of his play, man? I like D Winters. He reminds me, and I said it during training camp, there was a play that reminded me so much of Dre Greenlaw, just the way that he made the hit, how hyped he got. He seems like I'm not trying to say he's going to be as good as Dre. Time will eventually tell that, but as far as his energy and what he brings, man, he brings a little bit of something extra to the game for sure. He's a lot of fun. I think it's time to just say that he needs to be playing going forward, especially if the 49ers aren't going to be good. They need a youth movement, right? Like they should be playing a lot more of these young guys.
And I think he does have athleticism. I think he's still recovering from some things. I didn't see him. Now, granted, he's not going to be as fast as Kyler Murray with a head of steam, but he definitely wasn't coming close to touching him. But that was really more on Devondre Campbell, but that's another story. What's not another story, it's part of this conversation. I don't want to see Devondre Campbell on this team anymore. There's not I don't know if there's a team in the NFL there's not a team in the NFL that would start him. And I think there are many teams in the NFL that would cut him. And yet the 49ers are starting him. So, we got attrition. So, but instead, D Winters got a little more play today. And I think maybe spelling Fred Warner a couple times too. I don't know if the snap count. So don't hold me to that. That sounds great. I
mean, he's not the answer, right? Like he's not the answer to that's going to cause more wins. To me, it seems like every time they lose, I'm wondering to myself, why aren't you just playing the young guys anyways?
No,
you're not. It's not like you're winning with the Campbells and the Huffs. Unfortunately, can't stay healthy anymore. The Yadams.
Yep.
Why not?
It's the same conversation we had last week about Sam Aquananu. It's the same conversation we've had about Jordan Mason. Wait until CMC got hurt. I mean, Brock Purdy had to have Jimmy G brought back in late August, even though he was supposed to allegedly have the greatest training camp in the history of 49ers quarterbacks. We've heard this story before. Kyle won't play people until he has to. Okay. Yeah. So the idea, this is how Kyle is. And people can, and I like Kyle.
But he would still be buried if there wasn't 2 injuries at right guard, to be real. No,
absolutely. 100%. 100%. And I mean, Renardo Green. Why is Renardo he hasn't played poorly. We're risking too much. Yeah, you risked too much today when they sent the house on Kyler Murray and he sent up a wing and a prayer and Isaac Yiadom. To me, that was the play of the game. That was the play of the game.
Yeah, it was. And, you're right.
Was that fourth down?
Fourth down. Yeah, it was fourth down. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
I just honestly, and this team is, and those were both guys that I had no faith in whatsoever. Leonard Floyd, blind squirrel, found a nut, got a sack today, but was just getting tossed around like a rag doll all day long. Just absolutely being blown out of plays consistently. D Winters, get him some play. Get these young guys some play. It can't hurt. There's nowhere to go, but I mean, we could go. We can get worse, I guess. But where are you at? You're 2-3, right? You've lost the Rams. You lost the Cardinals. What else are you going to do? Just keep what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and expecting different results, right? So, Devondre Campbell ain't getting younger. He ain't getting better. I don't know, and I think this goes into the culture thing. I didn't mean to invoke this too much, but I tweeted out, said, hey, the problem with the culture of this team is that they're tag teaming a sports writer, a beat writer they don't like, and then they take a dump against one of the worst teams in the NFL because you're saying that so and so beat writer caused this loss. I said, that's not what I said. That's not what I said at all. I just made a statement about the culture of this team is you've got a lot of vets. And I think sometimes these vets see these older vets being prioritized in situations. And these guys I'm good. I'm something. So you're not you're just kind of a guy. You're a jag. There's guys that used to be elite and they're not really elite anymore. And it's pervaded this team to me, this feeling of invincibility, even when you have shown that the ship is leaking. Don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining, right? I'm ready for D Winters. I'm ready for some youth influx. And if they make mistakes, great. You know what? Our vets are making mistakes. I'm with you. I want to see these guys start throwing the fire and see what they got.
Drew, and I know you probably came in late, Drew. We're an hour into the show. We've definitely talked about it all, brother. We've talked about it literally all. I don't think that there's a unit or a player that doesn't deserve some of the blame here. I'm definitely with you, Drew. I'm definitely with you. Real quick, I do want to shout out the sponsor of the channel, Underdog. Make sure you hit the link in the description, promo code LSS, to get your deposit match up to 50%, up to $1,000, and your one free play. Last week's free play was Patrick Mahomes had to throw one passing yard. That was your free play. So when you sign up using promo code LSS, not only will you get that 50% deposit match, but you will also get a free play like Patrick Mahomes getting one passing yard, a guaranteed win. Check them out. Thank you so much, Underdog, for being a great sponsor of the channel. David, is there anything else that you want to talk about before we get to these supers? And once we get to the supers, by the way, you can take off if you need to. I've already taken an hour of your time, and there's 30 of these things waiting, so it could be a while.
I mean,
so
I'm good. I'm good to sit in this misery, but yeah, I'd like, you know the vets. I want to talk about some vets. Yeah. I want to talk about guys that, didn't really show up today. Talanoa Hufanga. I know he got hurt. You don't want to kick a man while he's down, but where are you, bro? Like, what were you doing on the Kyler Murray run? Like, what? Hey, he got hurt.
He keeps getting hurt, man.
Yeah, missed another huge tackle on James Conner that resulted in points down the line. He just completely lost out there. He is looking slow as mud. He has absolutely no business in coverage. This is not a guy that's going to get another contract with the 49ers. I just want to make that really very clear. And if he does, I get, hold me to it. It's fine. Like, go ahead, get the receipts. He shouldn't get another contract with the 49ers. And I'm sure he's a really wonderful human being, right? This is not slander of like a human, but like,
no, not at all. Like, this is football conversation.
But Hufanga is like, the safety situation is really troubling to me. Tig Brown, he taters somebody a couple times, and it's like, I'm just gonna kind of tackle high and graze your shoulder pad as you walk by. It's like there's just kind of moments where like, what are you guys like? Because the question was, why are we talking about the defense? Well, in the first half, the Cardinals were averaging 9 yards a play, and if not for the blocked field goal and the Bosa interception, that game was tighter than it was, and this game was not going to be as tight as it was here at the end. Right? Those are two super fluky, anomalous plays. The Bosa interception, the way it happened, is not a normal interception. It's just not. Okay. The blocked field goal in return for a touchdown, that doesn't happen like ever. Okay.
Yeah.
Against the worst special teams unit in the NFL. So yeah, I do want to look at defense. And I'm
the 49ers are the worst. I think Arizona was one of the better ones coming in. Yeah. Am I mistaken? Yeah. So the 49ers. I just wanted to clarify, because you said against, and I want to make sure that nobody takes it out of context. Yeah. You're saying the 49ers are one of the worst, and they were able to capitalize on that. Okay, I got you.
Right. And I want to see, I just Charvarius Ward. I mean, I've carried more water for Mooney Ward than almost anybody in here. And I'm telling you, man,
he hasn't been great this year, man.
He's fallen off. The cliff has hit, and he will not at 29 get another contract. And I'm grateful for that, but like, it's another question that's going to happen. Why are we not getting some of these other guys? So again, a Renardo Green instead of a Yadam. Let's get him. Oh, he's going to be a little handsy. So what? Like, let's give him a shot. Devondre Campbell. Yeah, we've talked about that. But then on the opposite side of the ball, today, Deebo Samuel, 1 catch for 11 yards, 3 carries. Guess how many yards Deebo Samuel got on his 3 carries? Best in the NFL.
Yards. 4 yards.
So 9, he averaged 3 a carry. 3 carries for 9 yards, 1 catch on 3 targets for 11. Juwan Jennings has been lights out. There's something, I don't know if Juwan Jennings is feeling
going on with his hand. He kept going to his hand.
He just looked like he looked off today. So I'm not gonna, but like Deebo, bro, like, let's, in this game, in those situations, if Kyle's going to use you in the way he's using you, like, and to be fair to Deebo, one of them was another of those harebrained reverses, but there's got to be more production, and there's got to be more verve from some of the guys that they're trying to depend on a lot. And there was a clip last year for the Cardinals game where Hufanga was out there like getting in with Connor. And make no mistake, when you go back, Hufanga's the one that initiated it. And Connor was trying to be kind of, but Hufanga was, and he started like putting his little finger in. He knew, and he's like, oh, I'm going to get close to you. But he knew that if Connor got into him, Connor's a big boy. Make no mistake about it.
Yeah,
like, and Hufanga's a hitter. But like this idea of like this attitude, this culture of like, we're better than you and we know it, but then you don't show it. It's the mediocrity.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating. Yeah, it's very frustrating.
So
it's very frustrating. And you know what's crazy too? Bosa single-handedly took over parts of this game. Now he had on the two Kyler Murray runs, the big ones, those were on him, the way he crashed down. But at a point, he had taken over about 2.5 quarters of this game and made that defensive line look a lot better than it had looked all season. But reality is, outside of him, man, there's not a lot going on up there. There's not a lot going on up there.
Fred made really no big plays today. You know, like, and Fred's amazing. He's been, but people probably going to start talking about Patrick Surtain as DPOY here pretty soon too. What the Broncos are doing. But there just weren't the Niners did not, outside of the flukier plays. Bosa was playing lights out. He's the best player on that defense. I still believe that over Fred Warner. I'm sorry, he is. That's my. I'm just going to say it.
No, like that's fine. That's fine.
And that's
I'll listen to the argument.
I think Fred is amazing. I think that what Nick does, even on those contain things, there were a lot of situations where he was containing Kyler Murray in the pocket, and Leonard Floyd was the one that absolutely 0 times was able to achieve that. And so I feel like I think we've probably said a lot, but the 49ers are in a situation where Kyle Shanahan has got to start to be, I know Brother Bob is going to love this. I wouldn't say the hot seat, but I would say the hot seat for actually getting questions about why exactly, instead of just saying, oh, CMC. There are a lot of teams with injuries right now, by the way. And Jordan Mason, Jordan Mason has the most yards rushing in 49ers history in his first 5 starts.
I think it's in NFL history. I think they said.
No, I thought it was just for the 49ers. I could be wrong.
It could be. I could be wrong too. I heard it wrong. Either way, it's a lot. He's crushing it.
Yeah. So this idea that like, oh, come on, he's not. I get that, but like, let's stop acting like this is Patrick Taylor, or like, this is even an old Jeff Wilson, or like I fill in the blank. I'm struggling to even think about who, like injured Jerick McKinnon. Like, this is a guy who's been incredibly productive. And no, he's not like going, but when he's asked to catch passes, he does. He's been better in pass protection as well. He's and it's like this idea that like we're missing CMC. Yeah, but you put in the leading rusher in 49ers history. Think of all the running backs the Niners have had. Like, this is not, and it is a tribute to Kyle in a lot of ways, right? But like, stop using that as an excuse. I don't want to hear it. Everybody was healthy today. Everybody.
Yeah.
What, Cowing?
You're right.
Pearsall? I mean, that doesn't count. These guys have Jennings. They have Debo. They had Ayuk. Ayuk played his ass off. They had Kittle. I'm sorry.
Ayuk played great. He'd been getting crushed week after week and came out and played phenomenal today. I'm happy for him that he was finally able to turn the corner. But that was also starting to get over the top too. This whole week I was going off on people like, oh, so now Jennings is better than Ayuk. Like, that's really the conversation we're having. It's like, come on, I love Jennings, but let's pump the brakes a little bit.
You saw it today.
Yeah. Brother Bob says, finally, Stats and Shanistan seeing the genius Kyle Levy. Ooh, I want to see what Stats has to say. West Bay Niner Talk says, what's going on with the corners? They don't even try to contest the catch. They just look at the ball in the air and don't even try to swat it. Yeah, it's almost like a lot of I've been coaching my son's flag football team, and a lot of the younger kids will do this where when they're on defense, they forget or they don't know that the ball could be anybody's. And so they just wait for the team to catch it. And then they're like, okay, you caught it. Let me pull your flags. It's what the 49ers do look like from time to time. I was like, oh, go ahead. You got it. Okay, now I'll tackle you. Thomas says, are we as fans allowed to criticize? Yes, of course. Do we have to ask Juice for permission? Yes, both are true. We can criticize, but only if Juice approves. Matt says Mooney Ward is playing like asks, yeah, he's not playing good. I know going into last game, he had a quarterback rating of 114 when targeted. I don't know what it was after last game, but I know today was, pretty rough. Brother Bob says Grant should not enter Juice's loser locker room. All right. Samir says De La Cruz. Next question. All right. Ivan GR says, y'all still deriding Kyle? That's never been me. But I think you're probably talking about everybody else that loves Kyle. Yeah, I don't know. He's a good coach, but there's something to be desired.
It's clear that he's not the only fish in the sea at this point. Can we just agree with that? And I even said, I think Kyle is invaluable in ways that there's a reason why Jordan Mason, people like this can come in and be just be interchangeable in a lot of ways. It's not all Jordan Mason, right? It absolutely has that. Kyle is a huge part of that equation, but he's not the only fish in the sea. He's not the only leader. He's not the only leader of men, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He's
or good play caller or good play designer. Like there's a lot of them.
Or a guy who can stay calm under pressure.
Can he stay calm under pressure?
I don't think he can. In fact, I don't know the thing that happened today. He gets so angry and so visibly angry at every mistake, and where I don't see other coaches do that to that degree. I don't see other coaches just visibly show the palpable frustration as if it's like somebody's pissed in your coffee every single time it happens. Like it is the NFL. Other teams are going to make plays. Your teams are going to make mistakes. Sometimes showing that you're like, we're good, we're moving on, I'm calm. Like I feel like players get to the point where they feel like they got to be perfect, and then I don't know. I think it's an element that people don't talk about enough.
Yeah, I agree. 808-9er says, why won't we run the ball? It's insane. Definitely getting pass happy. Dazza says, I said after the first game that it's concerning not scoring in the red zone and settling for field goals. It's catching up, and you can now see the CMC effect. Well, if you said it after the first game, Dazza, I believe it. You were on it early, and you're right. It is a major issue. 808-9er comes back. Thank you both. Says, this just sums up Kyle as a coach. We won't win a Super Bowl ever with him as a coach. I don't know if I can stop by the round table this week, Jess. This one hurts. Brother, I got to stop by the round table. Right? Like, I got to be there. And for anybody that doesn't know what he's talking about, there's a Roundtable Sports channel that myself, a Seahawks fan, a Cardinals fan, and a Rams fan, we go on every week. We talk about the games. And that's like the one place where you'll see me just be a fan and just talk trash to the other fan bases and just have a lot of fun. I got to show up there after talking all the trash that I've been talking over there and like act as if everything's great over here. And it's not. No. It's not great over here. It's just not. Laugh out loud. Heyman says teams are evolving. Kyle wants to be the 97-98 Broncos minus the elite quarterback. Oof. All right. Dazza says, thank you for the super chat, by the way. Dazza says, I watched the second half of the Bengals versus Ravens game. Brock Purdy doesn't look anything like either of those two quarterbacks. He's not worth $60 million. Okay.
Antonio, that's a good,
yeah. Go ahead.
That was a classic game today. If you were watching, I was watching that before.
That game went crazy. I
had it on my TV while I had the other one on the tablet, and while it finished, and it was a great game. And I've been critical of Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow has shit the bed many times as well. So it's not. And Brock's had some big moments too. But you're right. Like that is a metric where you look at like, can we do that? Can we go back and forth like that? And lately, it's really seemed. I don't know. Yeah.
Antonio Seabrook says he ignores the check down looking for big plays. That's what I said, Antonio. That's what I said. Matt says Purdy is holding the ball too damn long. It's like he is playing hero ball for no reason. I also said that, although you guys were saying this 40 minutes ago. I'm sure I was saying it around that time. So we were on the same page. And Dazza says, does Brock Purdy know he can throw the ball away? Remember when Jimmy would never throw the ball away? That was so frustrating. We were so excited when Brock came in and actually would throw the ball away. And now he's not throwing the ball away. Like, yeah, it's crazy. Keith Murphy, the unbeaten, says, NFC West, worst division in football. Go Giants. Yeah, I agree. Listen, Keith, and we talked about this earlier, though. We can't get excited if the 49ers are going to be first place in that division just by proxy. It's like, okay, that doesn't mean that they're good, though. The division is just really, really bad. all of a sudden.
Yep.
Singlish says Purdy is turning into Jimmy G. I don't know if we're there. I wouldn't go that far. Mark K says today was a true team loss. Everyone took a turn. I agree with that. And Brother Bob says Brock is the best QB in the league. Give him 80 million per PP. All right. GTC Real says Kyle likes being up 10 and shutting it down. All right, GTC, appreciate you. Keith says when we couldn't kick field goals, it was a wrap. Yeah, but it didn't have to be. You know what I mean? It didn't have to be. Just don't throw the interception and give him a chance to be back in that game. Don't fumble the ball in the red zone. Don't get ran all over. There were so many other opportunities. Foxer53 says, anyone think the upcoming contract is weighing on Brock too much? I don't think so. And listen, if the contract is weighing on him, then that's not a guy you want to pay anyways. I'll just be 100% with that. I don't think that it is. I don't think that has anything to do with it. But if it is, you don't want to pay that guy. Singlish says Dobbs is the only QB1 on this team. Stop. Shady Luke says your guy's defense was always an Achilles heel with Jimmy and has been with Brock, but now seems things are different. You mean they were the reason we were winning, not the Achilles heel. Now it feels like they're the Achilles heel. I know what you meant, Shady Luke. Keith Murphy, the unbeaten, says, Jesse, we don't need to talk number 1 seed at all. Yeah, you're right. We don't. I'm just throwing it out there with Minnesota. They keep winning. Brother Bob says, recall. I hated it last year when Moody didn't get it out of the back of the end zone. He's hurt because he didn't do it in this game. Robbie Gold, are you ready? I don't know that he is. I don't think he cares to play. Cryptic says, yeah, I know. I'm just in the heat of the moment. I appreciate you, Cryptic. Says, it's still early and we have a huge game against Seattle and still a lot of football. No, I don't think you're panicking, though, Cryptic. I don't think you're panicking. I mean, these games matter. Yep. If you've taken anything from today's stream, the 49ers are 0-3 in the NFC. They're 0-2 in the NFC West. These games matter. They do. They matter. Coach G81 says, film doesn't lie. Keep it 100, Jess. Stay safe, bro. I appreciate it. I will do my best, man. I will do my best to stay safe. Dazza says, people still think the issue is Wilkes. Sorensen's defense looks awful this year. Singlish says, this happens when you let your players pick the DC.
49ers culture. It's a 49ers culture, by the way.
Yeah, you could have just stopped at Colts and left off.
No, that's the thing. You know what? That is true. And that is something that we need to start talking about. Like the culture is cult-like. It is.
Yeah.
And there is. It is. I'm glad you brought that up. I never really thought about that before. But you're. I'm not even. It's not even funny at this point. Like it's.
I'm laughing because it hurts, David. I'm laughing because it hurts.
It's been hurting for 30 years.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
Yeah, it's been 30 years, and we've got teams that are still yucking it up about the dumbest. I mean, even Kyle Juszczyk today. Putts, absolute putts. Jake Moody's being brought off the field in pain, getting carted off.
He's acting like, I'm going to kick the ball. So funny. Yeah, I saw that. I was like, what are you doing, dude? Come on, man. Yeah, you know what he told the team after Moody got hurt? He huddled them all up, and he said, guys, this feels like 49er football. That's what this feels like. Jay Cash says, should we try to trade Debo for DA now or never? Why would Devontae Adams want to come play for this team? Like, I'm just saying. I would do it, but I also don't see why he would want to come here. I don't know why he'd want to go to the Jets either for that point. Keith says, Keith Murphy, the unbeaten, says, game felt eerily similar to the NFC Championship with no quarterbacks. It did have a weird feeling. It did have a weird, and you're talking about the kicker being out. There was a weird, ominous feeling for sure. Brother Bob says, yes, Kyle Levy needs to be on the hot seat. He knew CMC was hurt last year because he overused him. And when he gave CMC more guaranteed money, great idea, stuck on stupid. I brought this up on Coach's channel. We're almost through the super chats, David, but I'll run this by you. I have a theory.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that Kyle Shanahan babysat CMC when he was a kid. Okay. I have a theory that they and I don't even think it's a theory to say. I think we now basically know that there was this lingering injury and the team knew about it. But it seems like Kyle and the Shanahans being close with the McCaffreys the way they are was almost like, I'm just going to throw you one last bone, kid. Thanks. Appreciate you. We don't know if we're going to get anything from you, but we're going to make sure that you're protected, because at this point, if CMC hadn't been playing, he wouldn't be getting paid anything right now. He was getting game checks. And if he ain't playing in the games, you ain't getting paid. So now he's got all this guaranteed money to work himself back. Now he may come back and be good and everything or whatever. Maybe they threw him that bone and didn't quite realize, how serious the injury was, but they knew there was something there. It just seems a little fishy, man. It does seem a little fishy.
It's the Cabo. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense in that regard and at the time we talked about this, I think it's that. I think it's I also think it's Kyle's fealty and obsession too with CMC, and CMC is an amazing player. He's the best player in the 49ers. To be quite fair, right? Like but there comes a point where that decision making, we're really worried about it. If this season does become a wash, if the wheels come off, right, after a loss at Seattle, and then let's say it's a loss in KC, right? What happens down the road now with all these restructures and extensions? What happens when are they actually going to pay Brock Purdy if they continue to lose games? And I think this is the conversation that everything is easy when you're winning. Everything is easy when you're winning, but when you start to lose, and everything's easier when you won the Super Bowl too. That didn't happen, and now you're losing games that you should have won. And now we're starting to ask, should you even be winning them? And so I don't know. I think this is going to be an interesting season, and I will never cheer or root against. I want a Super Bowl so badly. I want a Super Bowl so badly for this team, and I'm a little bit worried right now. I didn't realize as I was looking at it, I don't think we talked about this explicitly. The 49ers didn't score any points the second half. I was sitting here thinking it's fun. I forgot. Oh yeah, it was 23 to 10, right? Yeah, it was 23 to 10. And I don't believe the Cardinals, I think they got stopped on a 3-and-out right away. So you're sitting here thinking, we're feeling pretty good. We're moving the ball down the field. Scoreless in the second half. Okay. And you lose by how many points?
Against one of the worst defenses in the NFL.
You lost by 1 point.
The offense basically accounted for 10 points today, if you really look at it. Right? No. How many points did they score? What was the final score?
13. So you had the three, you had the Kittle
13
touchdown.
Points, you're right, 13.
But again, I can't remember.
And 1 of 6 red zone touchdowns.
1 of 6 red zone touchdowns. And I feel like the Bosa, I can't remember what quarter that was where he had the interception. I'm not sure. I can't. That's
basically 3 of your points. And then you have the blocked field goal, ran back for a touchdown. That's 10 of your points. How many did they score? 23?
Yep.
Okay, so 13 points the offense accounted for.
It was 23. Yeah, the blocked field goal was the second quarter, and then Moody got hurt the very next play in the second quarter. And I want to say afterwards that might have been actually where Bosa, it could have been the interception again in the second quarter. I can't remember, but yeah, so
I think 13 it was. Points. Yeah.
So 13 points. That's what this offense did against the Arizona
because Mitch Wishnowsky did kick it before halftime because they asked Kyle about the injury and him making it, and he said he was happy for him or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's okay. Yeah, you're right. That was all everything was at before halftime.
Yep,
they were up 23 to 10, I think, at halftime or something like that.
Yep, man, stupid penalties allowed them to take a 2-point conversion to the point where they probably wouldn't have done that. And they probably would have just tried to tie it up. Would have changed the trajectory of the game possibly, but and again, the built-in excuses are all there. Oh, it's easier to win a game, and you can't go down and kick attempt a 45-yard field goal. I'm like, 0 points, guys. Like
0 points.
And Kyle, I'm sorry, I want to see Kyle start to be like genius Kyle again, not just like proficient Kyle.
I know. I agree.
I want to see Kyle, and the idea like coach him like you don't have all these guys in front of you. Coach him like you don't. And I'm sorry, if you're MVP quarterback, leading 49ers rusher of all time in first 5 starts, all-pro receiver comes out, has his breakout game and averages almost 19 yards a catch on 8 catches. George Kittle out there, even though George Kittle had 2 big drops today. Nobody's going to talk about that either. And I'm,
yeah,
I don't know what to say. I don't, how many, before this becomes a pattern, and when's Kyle going to actually answer for that? And people will say, well, what do you want him to do? What's it going to, how is that going to affect your life? Again, like, what, at what point does there have to be something like, there's going to be, I mean, I'll be real with you. Do you think Jed York right now is having a good night?
Oh, he's pissed.
Do you think John York is having a good night?
They got to be pissed. They got to be pissed right now.
They know, and we know that the reports are true about them being very frustrated with this willy-nilly pell-mell money just being thrown around like there was like a mint in San Jose, in Santa Clara, 49-49. Mm-hmm. And now all of a sudden, you're stacking losses now against shit teams in your division.
Yeah. It's not good, man.
The rumbling's got to start to, you can't tell me that this isn't the recipe for the wheels to really come up. When I'm talking about the wheels come up, I'm not talking about just on the field. I'm talking about
everywhere. Well, yep. and usually the fall from grace, David, it's not a graceful fall, right? Like they call it a fall from grace, but it means that you're falling from grace. It doesn't mean that the fall is graceful on the way down. You know what I mean? Like
right. It's not a golden parachute.
It's usually exactly. It's literally like when it happens when nobody expects it, and it's very sudden. I'm not saying for sure what's happening here. Yeah, you're dead. I'm not saying for sure that's what's happening. We'll see how the season plays out. But by gosh, we could be looking at this and being like, man, nobody had any clue that the fall off was going to be that instant and that brutal. That could be what's happening right here with this team.
Here's what I'm going to say. They have to, in my humble opinion, they have to win on Thursday, but I think this team really needs to roll off. I think they need to show that they could go out and beat Seattle, and then they could go home and beat Kansas City and Dallas. I'm sorry. If this team is who they think they are, you have to be able to do this. And if you can't, if you're going into the bye at 4-4 or 3-5, or heaven forbid, 2-6, and this is the thing. People are like, oh, they're not going to go 2-6. I don't think so either, because I just like a lot of like at the same time, like is 2-6 on paper like an impossibility? No,
it's not impossible. It's not.
But it's not. It's
not likely, but it's not
maybe impossible. It wasn't likely to lose to the teams they've lost to either.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I didn't. It's what's crazy is not only have I picked them in every game this year, but every content creator I've brought on the channel from opposing teams has picked them to win, and they're 2-3 right now. So it's like
they've been favored.
Who knows?
They've been favored in Vegas every game.
Yep.
Today it was a -7 line. It's a big line. Last week it was a -10. And they did end up covering. Look, it's the Patriots, right? Rams, I think it was pretty close to that, like a 7. Vikings, I want to say it was like 5.5, right? And that was before people knew what they had in the Vikes. But
Dazza says we should have kept D'Amico and traded Kyle Shanahan. All right. Xavier says passing the ball on third and second at the goal line. Yeah, I mean that's kind of what we were talking about earlier. There's just so much passing at the goal line. It's so strange. With the power back, 808 says, "What's worse, dink and dunk or losing? By far losing. Give me whatever, and as long as they're winning, I don't care." Dave Barclay says, "Lyle Levy, brother Bob. Lyle Levy."
You're right. My bad. I needed that reminder. Lyle, until we get back-to-back wins, and then Lyle Levy. Not like Levy. I'm not going to see the Levy. I'll also say Lyle for now.
Lyle.
Coach
Lyle Shanahan. Samir says, off topic, any planned live shows on LSS2? Man, it's so hard. Not being full-time in this, it's so hard to find the time, and this has got to be my priority. But listen, if the 49ers keep losing, the season goes to hell in a handbasket. I'll still want to talk football. and I'll end up doing it over there. So we'll see, Samir. We'll see how it goes. Helperman says, spoiler alert, we ain't paying Brock regardless of the outcome this season because Kyle doesn't value the quarterback or O-line. Thanks for the ride, Brock. Yeah, I don't know about all that, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Just be prepared for this. Yeah, I don't know if that's. I think that they feel like they're probably going to have to. But look, if this continues and the results, the way the Niners have been playing, and the offense have been playing, I'm sorry, like you're going to have to start really showing like, and I'm like more mine. I'm the box score scout, but like you're going to need to see some production. You're going to have to see some like I can put you on my back and do this. And today didn't see it.
Antonio says, hey, Jesse, say it then. This team sucks. And then when we're back in the Super Bowl, don't hop on the train. All right, let me say this. Antonio, you look very young in your picture. I've been a fan for probably twice the amount of time you've been alive. So I find it odd that you're gatekeeping my fandom. But also at the NFC Championship game, and David was side by side with me, and I tweeted it, so there is proof. When they were down at halftime and everybody had given up, except for the guy that isn't a fan of the team, which is crazy to say. I tweeted out that the team was still going to win, and my message was filled with "No, they're not." Blah blah blah. They suck. This and they ended up winning. So don't talk to me about fandom and gatekeeping my fandom, brother. I've probably spent more money than you've ever seen in your life on this team throughout my life.
Yep.
So I appreciate you watching the show, but you don't get to come in here and tell me whether I can root for this team or not. Sorry, Tony, you're not pulling those tickets away from me.
Yeah, Tony Green here. I'll make sure just drop me your Venmo, your Cash App. I'll drop some money in your. You can maybe meet me at the hotel in Monterey. I'm going with my wife in a couple of weeks. We go down to Big Sur, flying into SFO. Well, yeah, just if you're in the area, if you need some money, if you need some help, just let me know. We're not a fan. You can't after a loss to the worst teams in the NFL. It should be roses and rainbows. Everything's
we
fine.
should just talk about all the positive, man, and how great they are and how they're still going to make the Super Bowl, right?
And some of you young guys, like, no offense, but like I'm a high school teacher, and so I get like I don't actually shit down or stare down my nose at young people. I like going shoulder to shoulder with them. But like you said, there's some the time here is a big thing. Like I live in Minnesota, so these Vikings fans, man, they haven't won anything ever, right? So it's all you talk about the institutional like memory of like in the 70s or something. That doesn't go back as far for me, but I'm born in 1982, so I've been a fan since I was.
We've seen them win Super Bowls. Our standard is here, not here.
Right. And even then it was a kid, but it was like, you've also then been through all the losses. You've been through all that time. So I've been through the 30 years. I vividly remember the Super Bowl title. So please, like, if you again, I was,
but the tickets gatekeeping a fandom is so funny.
The tickets to the UFC Championship game aren't exactly cheap. So,
and I came from Tampa. I flew from Tampa to Santa Clara.
Yep.
Bought NFC Championship tickets.
Yep.
And then stood firm at halftime saying this team was going to win when everybody else had lost hope. But you're just gonna rip my fan card from me. All right, Chief, got it, bro, got it. I just whenever you could say I could be a fan again, please let me back into the fan base. Please let me back into the fan base.
I love this because I flew from the very far northeastern corner of Minnesota by the Canadian border on Lake Superior in the winter, and so I went down to Duluth to get a connecting flight to Minneapolis to SFO. At Duluth at 3 o'clock in the morning, I wake up and realize that my flight was canceled from Duluth to Minneapolis. So I get on with Delta. They say yes, as long as you can get down to here in time. My wife and I get in the got on no sleep, like an hour of sleep, and drove down through a fog snowstorm to MSP. Okay. Got there right in time to go through security and be fine. But I drove all the way down there on fumes. Okay. Went out there. Jesse and I actually were two of the handful relative of season ticket holders that were holding the American flag on the field that was globally televised, but we're not fans. Respectfully, can I swear on this show or not? Can I?
Yeah, we're 2 hours in. Go say whatever you want.
Fuck up, brother. Shut the fuck up.
Respectfully, of course.
And have a nice day. And yeah, give me your cash app. I'll send you some beer money.
Samir says, Jim Mora says, KC. BKC? We're talking about KC? I know. Playoffs. KC. Dave Barclay says, any possible way Eddie D comes back, please. No, man. Unfortunately, that ship has sailed. CB Niners says, I was there with a Brocktober sign, but it's over. Yeah, we'll see. There's still some time left in the season, but it ain't good right now. Keith Murphy, the unbeaten, says Kyle did hand it off with the game on the line, and 24 blew it. Well, 24 also got him there. So level 7 says held the Lions and y'all to 0 points in the second half. That's true. You did. And in the second half, the Cardinals D isn't bad, just has no pass rush. I told you the Cards win these types of games. You were right, level 7, man. You did say that they were going to win. So kudos to you for calling it. Kudos to your Cardinals, man. No excuses over here. We just got flat out beat. And the Arizona Cardinals are a team that is not supposed to be good yet, and the 2-3 record is kind of an indicator of that. But going forward, they're going to be very, very good. They're going to be a handful as long as they continue to draft well. So there you go. 100%. All right, David, an hour and a half, man. Thank you so much for giving me your time. I'm glad you feel better. Hopefully you have a good day tomorrow at work. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for contributing. Even Antonio, we're just busting each other's balls, man. But you definitely don't get to strip any fan cards. I'm just making that clear. But I appreciate everybody, whether you're trolling, just having a good time, donating, not donating. Everybody's welcome, man. I hope you guys all have a blessed night. I'll be back tomorrow. Much love.
Coach Lyle.